I'm Camille Harrow, 38, head of risk evaluation at Helios Dynamics in Boston. At least I was until this morning. Youngest of three. The one who never raised her voice. The one who always read the fine print no one else bothered with. My sister married into money. My brother into politics. I married a job that doesn't lie but will destroy you if you misread a single line. I've built my career inside pressure cookers, reactors, systems, protocols. Nothing ever breaks in one loud snap. It builds in silence, until silence is the only warning you get. I was standing outside conference room 9 when I got the ping. Internal priority, board plus North Nova present. Finalization expected. The door was tinted black glass. I could see only outlines. A dozen executives. Suits in tension. I stepped inside. Light, stripped, everything cold. The Boston skyline behind them looked surgical. Valeria Keene was already seated at the head of the table, flanked by legal, ops, and our CFO. She didn't look up when I entered. Just kept tapping something into her tablet like she was silencing a bomb or lighting one. She finally spoke without looking at me. USBs are prohibited in secure zones. You know that, Camille. No one moved. No one breathed. It wasn't connected to the network, I said calmly. It was for the printer. Personal photo. It never touched the system. She looked up. Her smile was curved glass. There's no such thing as a harmless device when you're this close to a $4.2 billion merger. There was a pause. A long one. Then she spoke again, this time to the room. As CEO of Helios, I'm suspending Dr. Camille Harrow, effective immediately. Breach of policy. Silence. A pen rolled off the table. No one reached for it. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. That kind of move at that moment wasn't about protocol. It was about dominance. I turned to Marcus Lang, our CTO. His face was stone, but I saw his jaw clench just once. I gathered my notes, clicked the pen shut, and walked out. Every step echoed like countdown. My phone buzzed once. A notification from internal systems. Signature authorization. Pending. Risk finalization ID. Harrow 23 live. I paused at the end of the hallway, glancing through the glass. Valeria was already talking again. Brisk, sharp, as if nothing had happened. But something had. They thought removing me would keep the machine running. But in this industry, some machines are built to shut down if the wrong hand touches the wrong wire. Behind me, the door slid shut with a soft magnetic hiss. Below my badge number, the system was already blinking red. They just pulled the only keystone the merger needed. You just removed the only person who can authorize that $4.2 billion deal. Good luck surviving the next 12 hours. The coffee tasted like ash. I sat at a corner table in a half-lit cafe on Boylston Street. Coat still buttoned, bag still zipped, hands flat against the ceramic cup. A TV above the counter whispered morning headlines, sports, traffic, something about Europe's grid crisis. But the closed captions said everything I needed. Merger watch. Helios North Nova faces final audit deadline. They didn't know the system was already bleeding. My phone buzzed once. Then again. I didn't touch it. Information spreads in proportion to fear. Let them sweat. I stared out through the rain-speckled window. A blur of taxis, horns, flashing lights. Downtown Boston moved, like nothing had shifted. But inside Helios, everything was breaking in silence. I reached into my coat and pulled out the USB. Plastic. Cheap. The kind you get from trade shows or school fundraisers. I flipped it between my fingers once, then dropped it back into my pocket. They built a boardroom scandal around a $3 trinket, and somehow believed that would be enough to erase me from the system. It would have worked, if I hadn't designed the system myself. My phone screen lit up. Marcus Lang. I let it ring. Then came the second notification. System error. Authorization key Harrow 23, live not found. There it was. Clause 23B. I had buried it deep, nearly a decade ago, under layers of legal language only 2 people could translate. A contingency clause, harmless on paper, lethal in execution. It required that any risk assessment tied to a merger exceeding $1 billion be signed by a tenured risk officer with continuous certification and 0 disciplinary marks. In other words, me. Not Valeria. Not the deputy. Not legal. Not the stand-in consultant she probably already called from New York. Just me. And I'd just been erased from the system. Some people think trust is given. It's not. It's designed like code. And when you violate the design, the whole thing crashes. I looked down at the second message. From internal systems. Status. Deal finalization locked. Reason. Missing signatory access protocol. Next reviewable access. 96 hours. For days. They had 4 hours. I stood up. Rain tapped harder against the windows. I could smell burnt espresso and the faint musk of damp wool. A man walked past the cafe window. Slowed. Glanced in. Too long. I turned, left a 20 on the table, and stepped outside without looking back. Cut scene. Rain soaked my collar. I walked fast south along Tremont toward the edge of the common. My phone buzzed again. This time I checked. Internal. IT department attempting override of security signature. I stopped walking. Attempting. Not succeeding. I ducked into the entrance of a closed bookstore and logged into the private backup terminal through a burner VPN. I traced the override attempt. It was routed through Ethan Voss. Ethan. VP of Strategic Ops. Always smiling. Always too polished. The kind of man who says no offense right before saying something deeply offensive. I scanned the logs. Timestamp. 7:12 a.m. 34 minutes after I was suspended. He didn't wait long. But here's the thing. Ethan didn't have override clearance, which meant someone gave it to him. Power isn't seized. It's handed over, one quiet signature at a time. I pulled up the secondary chain. 3 files were tagged as tampered, risk cert override attempt. They were live edits, and one of them used an authorization string that looked familiar. Too familiar. My fingers froze above the keyboard. I rechecked the string. It was a synthetic copy of my original login hash. Someone cloned my ID. I exhaled slow. It wasn't about punishing me for the USB. It was about getting me out of the way. I closed the screen, burned the connection, and looked back across the street. Same man. Same coat. He was still there. He turned the corner when I moved. Not fast, but purposeful. Someone was following me. I stepped off the curb, walked into the crowd, cut through a delivery truck's blind side, and slipped into a CVS, down the cleaning aisle, past the freezer section, then out the rear exit. 1 breath. 2. Gone. I texted Marcus 1 line. They're inside. Check who gave Ethan my hash. Seconds later, his reply. It wasn't IT. It came from Valeria's access console. Clause 23B wasn't just a policy, it was a loaded gun. And Valeria just pulled the trigger without knowing where it's aimed. Helios headquarters looked different at night. Not quieter. Not emptier. Just colder. I walked past the security booth like I still belonged. Badge in hand, coat zipped up. No eye contact. Confidence buys access. Hesitation gets questioned. The guard barely glanced at me. 7th floor. The elevator doors opened too slow. My fingers drummed against the side panel. I wasn't here to take anything. I was here to confirm one thing. That they had already taken something from me. The lights in the West Wing were dimmed, but the glow from Conference Room 9 was unmistakable. Glass walls lit like a fish tank. Inside, Valeria, Ethan, and someone new. Male. Suited. Sharp. Older. Not Helios. I froze just beyond the hallway camera's range. A name flashed on the display behind them. North River Advisory Council. Confidential briefing. North River? They weren't supposed to be here until tomorrow. Why hold a briefing the same day you suspend your lead risk officer? Unless the whole thing wasn't about punishment. It was about timing. I took the service stairs down to the 4th floor, where IT stored encrypted internal logs. My access was technically suspended, but Clause 12H had another feature. Fail-safe admin override if system integrity was compromised. And cloning my digital hash? That qualified. I used the code I wrote 9 years ago. Typed slowly, one key at a time. The lock clicked open. Inside, the server room hummed. Clean air, cold metal, red lights blinking across rows of machines. I pulled up the internal access logs. There it was. Override command, execute, Harrow 12H. Issued at 5:43 a.m. IP matched Valeria's console, but the access trail didn't end there. There was a second location, outside Boston, somewhere in Connecticut, a private server tagged NRA main. North River. They had access to our internal systems before Valeria suspended me. They were already inside. Control isn't seized in chaos. It's negotiated in advance behind closed doors over drinks too expensive to refuse. My breath fogged against the glass of the terminal. I downloaded the log file. No names, no clear motive, but one detail caught my eye. Clause 12H hadn't just flagged my signature protocol. It had triggered a silent freeze on the entire risk forecasting engine. Every model, every risk rating, every projection tied to the Helios North Nova deal. The numbers they were showing right now in that conference room, they weren't real. They were placeholders. Synthetic projections with a 48-hour expiration. After that, the system collapses, and the merger along with it. I backed out of the system, killed the connection, but before I could leave, footsteps. 2 pairs. Fussed. I ducked behind the server rack, breathing through my teeth, heart high in my throat. I saw them through the gap. Not security. Private detail. One of them had a gun. Helios doesn't use armed guards, but North River does. They weren't searching for me randomly. They knew exactly where I'd be. I crawled beneath the rack, moved low, slow, silent. When they passed, I slipped out through the emergency exit and let the door seal behind me. No alarms, just a soft metal click. Outside, I inhaled so hard it hurt. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Message from Marcus. You were right. They rewrote 3 models. The projections are fake. I replied with one line. They don't need my signature. They need my silence. And they were already too late. The live stream went live at 9 sharp. Valeria stood under white lights in the Helios ballroom. Glass walls behind her, the city framed like a promise. Flags, logos, smiles rehearsed to the millimeter. North Nova's seal glowed on the screen beside her. Temporary, fragile. I watched from a borrowed laptop in the back booth of a diner near South Station, the smell of grease and burnt toast cutting through my nerves. The waitress asked if I wanted coffee. I shook my head. My hands were steady. That scared me more than the fear. Valeria opened with confidence. Today marks a defining moment. Cut. The feed stuttered. Audio clipped. The risk dashboard flickered to gray. Behind her, a red banner flashed once, then stayed. Final risk certification, missing, Harrow 23. A breath passed, then another. North Nova's representative leaned into frame, whispered something sharp. The camera tried to reframe. Failed. The chat exploded. Cut scene. My phone lit up with headlines before Valeria could blink. Merger freeze after missing authorization. Insider sabotage suspected. Helios shares volatile in early trading. I didn't smile. Systems don't collapse for spectacle. They collapse because someone ignored a warning. I'd learned that early, quiet people don't get remembered until the alarms scream. A message pinged from Marcus. Legal's panicking. Valeria ordered a server sweep. They're trying to pin it on you. Of course they were. Another ping, unknown number. You should disappear. I stood, paid cash, left the booth. Outside, rain cut sideways. I crossed the street, doubled back, checked reflections in the bus shelter glass. A black SUV idled at the corner, engine running. No plates on the front. When pressure rises, truth doesn't shout. It leaks. I moved with the crowd toward the T, slipped down the stairs, took the platform at the last second. Doors shut. The SUV stayed put. Cut scene. Underground signal flickered back to life. An internal alert hit my inbox. Misrouted, sloppy. Panic does that. Mandatory reporting triggered. SEC, Material Risk Disclosure Review. They'd crossed a line. Once you touch public markets, the rules change. Silence becomes a felony. I forwarded the alert to my private counsel. One sentence. Preserve everything. The train lurched. Lights dimmed. I caught my reflection in the window, face pale, eyes sharp. My mother used to say the youngest learns to watch because no one listens. She was wrong. Watching is how you survive. At Park Street, I exited with the crowd and took the long tunnel. A man brushed past me, murmured, "Wrong turn." I didn't look back. I ducked into a maintenance corridor, pushed through a service door, and climbed the narrow stairs 2 at a time. Burst out onto the common. Wind slapped my face. The city breathed around me, oblivious. My phone buzzed again. Marcus. They rewrote 3 models before the live stream. Synthetic projections. North Nova's compliance team just pulled their people. Another truth leak. Another crack. A voice drifted from behind me. Camille. I turned. Ethan Voss stood 10 feet away, coat immaculate, hands visible. The picture of calm. The picture that lies. Walk with me, he said. You don't want this public. I laughed once short. That ship sailed when you cloned my hash. His smile thinned. You don't understand the scale. There are interests. I understand incentives, I said. They don't care who gets burned, as long as the number's clear. He stepped closer. Valeria will make this right. We can reinstate you. Quietly. When someone offers you a door back, it's because the room behind them is on fire. I'm not a patch, I said. I'm the fail-safe. He exhaled, frustration cracking the polish. Then you're forcing our hand. Behind him, the black SUV rolled into view at the edge of the park. 2 men inside, watching, waiting. My phone chimed, calendar invite. North Nova, emergency compliance call, 15 minutes. I met Ethan's eyes. Tell Valeria to stop digging. The deeper she goes, the more she finds. He turned away, jaw tight. The SUV didn't move. Cut scene. I ducked into the public library, marble cool and echoing. Security cameras everywhere. Witnesses. I took a seat beneath the lime murals and opened my laptop. North Nova's call connected. Faces appeared. Compliance, legal, risk. No smiles. We've identified synthetic inputs, their lead said. We're suspending all forward actions. I nodded. That's correct. Can you certify the models? Not under Helios, I said. Not after tampering. The law's clear. A pause. Respect. Edged with relief. We'll need evidence. You'll have it, I said. And a timeline. I ended the call. Stood. The SUV's reflection glided across the glass doors outside. I zipped my coat and walked toward the exit, pulse calm, steps measured. They thought I'd run. I'm walking straight into their war zone. I entered Helios through the loading bay. No badge. No announcement. A borrowed jacket. A cap pulled low. Cameras everywhere. But cameras only tell the story you let them see. I moved with purpose, not haste. Haste draws eyes. The building hummed like a held breath. Cut scene. The service elevator jolted upward. My phone vibrated once. Marcus. Valeria's convening an emergency board session. Top floor. 15 minutes. Plenty of time to end it. I stepped out on 49. The air smelled of ozone and polished wood. Lights were dimmed to presentation mode. Cinematic deliberate. Power likes a stage. I slipped into the side corridor and accessed the frozen node terminal hidden behind a maintenance panel. My fingers flew. Short commands. Old muscle memory. The system responded like it recognized me because it did. Machines remember who built them. Video logs bloomed across the screen. Date stamped. Time synced. One file flagged twice. Tampered, then restored. I opened it. Valeria's voice filled my earbuds. Tight. Controlled. I need the risk signature neutralized. Another voice answered. Male, calm, older. That's handled. The projections will carry us through announcement. A pause. A smile I could hear. And Harrow. She'll be removed. Quietly. The file cut to black. I swallowed. Saved copies. Encrypted. Routed to a dead drop I'd set years ago for exactly this reason, when truth needs witnesses. Footsteps echoed. I closed the panel and stepped into the corridor as Ethan rounded the corner. He stopped short. Surprise flickered, then annoyance. You're persistent, he said. I'm precise, I said. There's a difference. He moved closer. Too close. You don't have standing. I have logs, I said. And a timeline. His jaw tightened. You're making this worse. That's the lie people tell when consequences arrive early. He reached for his phone. I pressed my wrist to the wall panel and triggered lockdown. Metal shutters slammed down over the corridor exits. Lights snapped to red. A low alarm thrummed. Not evacuation, not fire. Containment. Ethan froze. Cut scene. Conference room 9 went dark mid-argument. Glass walls frosted opaque. The board's voices muffled into a dull roar. Emergency lights cast faces in harsh angles. Valeria stood at the head of the table, eyes blazing. What is this? I stepped into the light. Her breath caught. You're not authorized to be here. I built the authorization, I said. You borrowed it. A man rose from the far end. Silver hair, tailored suit, posture like a verdict. Alden Krell. Strategic advisory. North River's shadow. So, he said almost kindly, the engineer returns. I prefer witness, I said. He smiled. You're overplaying. I tapped my phone. Screens lit. Logs. IP traces. The cloned hash. The synthetic models. Dates aligned like teeth. Valeria's face drained. Alden, you said. I said we'd protect the company, he cut in. I didn't say we'd protect you. Power abandons its instruments the moment they squeal. He turned to me. This ends now. You walk away. We'll make you whole. I laughed once. You already tried that. He nodded to the corner. Two men stepped from the shadows. Private detail. Hands near jackets. My phone chimed. A calm voice cut through the room from the speakers. This is the FBI Cyber Division. Do not disable the network. Alden's smile cracked. I'd sent the packet the moment lockdown engaged. Jurisdiction matters. Evidence matters more. Valeria sank into her chair. You called the feds. I filed mandatory reports, I said. Public markets. Material misstatements. The law doesn't negotiate. One of the men reached for his earpiece. Another froze as the doors unlocked, this time from the outside. Blue jackets flooded in, efficient, silent. Alden took a step back. You think this ends clean? Nothing ends clean, I said. It ends correct. An agent cuffed him. Another read writes. Camera's word. Someone was crying. Valeria looked at me then, not angry. Smaller. Why didn't you come to me? I met her gaze, because you didn't listen when I spoke quietly. Cut scene. Hallway. Flashing lights. Voices overlapping. My phone buzzed North River. We've seen the evidence, the message read. All talks suspended pending investigation. I leaned against the wall, breathing hard now that it was over, or beginning. Truth isn't loud. It's patient. An agent approached. Dr. Harrow? We'll need your statement. I nodded. I'm ready. Across the glass, dawn crept over the city, pale and relentless. This isn't just a deal anymore. It's federal crime, and I'm the only witness still breathing. I watched the sunrise from the window of the North River conference room. Boston leaned into the light, tall buildings flickering like circuit boards booting up. The city looked normal, ordinary, unaware of how close it came to collapse. Cut scene. The courtroom camera blinked on. Federal Prosecutor Ramirez stood at the podium, files stacked like artillery. He spoke in measured tones. Evidence confirms malicious tampering with financial risk modeling, intent to mislead public investors and violate securities law. 3 heads, Alden Krell, Valeria Keene, Ethan Voss, tense behind glass, handcuffs snug and visible. I didn't feel triumph. I felt the weight of the silence that follows a storm. Truth isn't the loudest voice in the room. It's the one that stays when the echoes fade. A journalist shoved a microphone toward me. What happens now, Dr. Harrow? I paused, chose my words like they were the last drops of water in a desert. When accountability is enforced, integrity matters more than profit. A camera flash, a chime of notification. My phone lit up with a message from North River's CEO. Camille, your insights helped prevent systemic failure. You're cleared to sign final risk certification on your terms. I exhaled slow. This wasn't the closure most people expect in stories like this. No cinematic choir, no triumphant score, just a pen and a chance to do it right. I walked to the secure terminal North River had provisioned. A solemn room, floor-to-ceiling glass, no audience. 1 desk, 1 screen, 1 chance. I logged in. My badge, my credentials restored. Real this time. A soft hum of servers, compliance protocols verified in real time. The models blinked to life. The numbers made sense. I signed. Authorized. Final risk evaluation. Approved. The screen went green. Cut scene. Outside, an emergency press briefing finished. The SEC announced a forensic audit across all major energy mergers. A tide of repercussions, good ones, meaningful ones. Back in the conference room, I packed my things. A framed photo sat on the desk. A picture of my sister, my brother, and me at a beach we never vacationed on. My parents had insisted we smile like we were a family. It was the closest approximation of joy we ever had. A text from none other than my sister blinked on the screen. Saw you on TV. Proud of you. I stared at it, hated it, and loved it at the same time. Relationships are strange that way. They don't follow codes or statutes. They bend. They break. They rebuild. Someone once told me, a clear conscience is the softest pillow. I don't know about soft, but I know this. Integrity saved more than a merger. It saved a system that millions depended on. And it reminded people that power without accountability is a liability. Cut scene. I walked through the lobby of North River. Staff paused and nodded, respectful calm. No panic. No whispers. Just acknowledgement. I stepped outside. The wind was cold. Slate. Like a breath exhaled once, deliberately. A car pulled up. The driver offered a quiet greeting. No cameras, no crowd, just presence. I slid in. Seatbelt clicked. We drove. No soundtrack. Just road noise and ongoing life. I looked back at the skyline one last time. A building that once represented ambition, now still, quiet, learning consequences the hard way. I turned forward. This road had no red lights. No unexpected freezes. Only movement. Scar tissue teaches caution. Truth teaches resilience. I tapped the window. The glass was cool. Steady. In the rear-view mirror, there was no threat. Only a reflection of someone who'd stood where truth mattered more than fear. I whispered, "Integrity is a signature no one can forge." And for the first time in a long time, my breath didn't catch. The last signature was mine.